Hello on the Rockers. On this episode, we chat with actor, singer, and fabulous TikToker Garrett Clayton about life on stage and screen with me, your favorite host with the sassy most. Raise a glass, let the drinks begin. It's On the Rocks.
Hello.
Thank you for being
Boulevard.
Life is a banquet, and most poor suckers are starving to death.
I'd like to propose a toast.
This is On the Rocks with Alexander, where I drink with your favorite celebrities as we talk about fashion, entertainment, pop culture, reality TV, and, well, that's about it. So pop a cork, lean back, and raise a glass to On the Rocks.
Fasten your seatbelt. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Lord have mercy, buttons and bows and pantyhose. On the Rocks podcast, place where we're too glam to give a damn. We've been trying to get this kid on the show forever, and he's finally here. But before that, like us on Twitter and Instagram at On The Rocks On Air, and on Facebook, On The Rocks Radio Show. Send me an email, book me for a wedding, funeral, quinceañera, bris, a pride. I don't care, I'll be there. Info at OnTheRocksRadioShow.com. The show's presented by Straw Hut Media. You can watch and or listen to our now over 300 episodes at OnTheRocksRadioShow.com. Watch us on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Facebook Watch, stream with pride on SVTV, and on Channel 31 on the East Coast for some reason. Tony, do you know why the East Coast? No? All right. You're lucky, East Coast. All right. Let's get the show on the road. Garrett Clayton, best known for his leading role in the hit Disney Channel movies Teen Beach Movie and Teen Beach Movie 2. He was also seen in indie film Peel, opposite my ex-boyfriend Emil Hirsch, and Between Worlds, not with my ex-boyfriend, Nicolas Cage, and in Reach, a very powerful film that was kind of impetus to come out. So, previously, of course, we loved him as Link on NBC's Hairspray Live. Also started as the lead in the indie feature King Cobra, opposite James Franco and Christian Slater, and Brent Corrigan is actually one of my friends.
Oh, surprise.
It does surprise certain people, which premiered at Tribeca Film Festival to incredible reviews. And, of course, we saw him in a whole different light. And also Freeform's The Fosters, that we love. His film Don't Hang Up, opposite Greg Sulkin, appeared at the LA Film Festival. That was a little dark, a little cute, a little dark. And, of course, God Looks Away, opposite Al Pacino and Judith Light at the Pasadena Playhouse. He's from Michigan, by the way, if you didn't know that. Performed in regional theater productions of High School Musical 2, Peter Pan, Beauty and the Beast. And, of course, we love his musical parody shows. It, which is coming back to the East Coast if you're around there. Stranger Things. And also can be seen in the short film, The Lettermen, which is now playing film festivals. We're going to take a little look at that. Based on the largest surviving collection of World War II love letters. Mm-hmm. Beautifully done. And, I saw it this weekend, and we're going to play a little trailer from that. But first, please welcome Garrett Clayton.
Hello.
Hello.
I didn't know if I was supposed to talk over all the applause.
It's because I know, right. So, Detroit, Michigan. Tell me, what was life like growing in Michigan? What kind of boy were you? Were you like always the theater kid? Were you like the popular kid? Or like what kind of kid were you?
I really feel like I had that very 90s growing up. I came from divorced parents, and so I felt like I was just always growing up in different, like, nomadic almost, because I switched schools I think 3 times.
Oh my God.
And lived in 5 states before I was 4, and now my job requires me to travel so much. I feel like I've always been moving and traveling and meeting, and so it as a kid it was just very excited, happy, precocious. You know, there was a few mean people, but I think we all have a couple of those when we're growing up. So
I still have them. Hello, West Hollywood. But when you look back, you know, and I was like, I've always been a fan of you, and I'm a fan of your TikTok content.
Thank you.
But when you look at everything you've done, you've really done a little bit of everything. We've seen you grow up before our eyes in so many different genres. And now talking on Spotify weekly, with your husband, talking about it all. I don't know that I could work with my partner if I had one, but but you talk to a bunch of different queer people and a bunch of different themes every single week. What's it like going so far for being an actor in the closet, now sharing this beautiful experience of talking about queer stories with your partner? When you look back, that must be like a full circle of life of being able to have a platform where you can be yourself.
Well, that was a part of it, is because when I first moved from Michigan, I had already been out. I was in a BFA for music theater. I was gay, baby. And then I had opportunities, and I had, and I've spoken about this a few times, I had a team of people who were very clear in that we either cannot represent you or you will not have opportunity if we don't do something about you being gay. So, and everyone thought that my big secret at the time was that I was gay, and I was really, the biggest secret was that I was in a long-term relationship, and I'll protect the egg over everything. So I was like, think what you want to think about me. I know where my roots are. I know who my family are. I trust in this relationship I've built, in that I told Blake what was going on. And the reality of the industry when I moved here 12 years ago is that if you were out, you didn't have as much opportunity, which is still 100%. Pretty much true today. I mean, I've seen in real time since coming out the difference in opportunities. I'm lucky that I have built enough of work and enough of a resume to still have opportunity since coming out. But I do see the difference in the opportunities that are given.
And we do think that there's this boom of everybody coming out, but we also know, I know you and I probably know a lot of people in the same circle that have not come out. So it's still not a super safe space. But I want to know, after you're coming out, how did the roles kind of change that were coming across your desk to audition for? How did that really kind of change your career? And did that same team still carry through with you? Or did you have to totally clean house?
I mean, I've had a new team of people for a few years now that are wonderful. And when I was ready to come out, I know that there was a bit of it around the time that I did Reach, but really there was a point that came and I told Blake, I think I'm ready to just be out and move on with my life from that point. Because in my mind, I was like, I've already come out. I've already done this thing. I just had to put it on pause because I knew that there was no way I was going to have opportunity to speak about what's going on if I didn't have enough of a platform and a voice. Nobody's going to listen if I haven't, gotten through somehow. Right. And that's just the unfortunate reality of the world we live in. If I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't be where I am now. And it sucks that is the path that I saw that life had given me. It was like I either put up with this bullshit or I don't do that, and then I have to just hope that I get out of a restaurant. I mean, I was working 12-hour shifts, 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. for years. Like, people don't know. Like, I was working with my dad and my stepdad on construction sites when I was 10 years old. I worked at IHOP when I was 15. Like, literally, it was like, you have to have a job. You have to continuously have a job. So I've been working most of my life in different forms, whether it was trade work. I mean, my family, literally, we could build a house from the ground up. I kid you not. And I'm proud of that.
Well, that's a reality show probably that you could have down the line.
HGTV, here we come. So yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that is the reality of the path that I was in front of me, but I knew that there was no way I was going to get to this point where I am now, being able to advocate for the people in the community that I love, if I hadn't gone through that to get here. So I'm not necessarily happy or proud that I had to make that decision, but I did, and this is where I am. And I'm really happy and excited that in this point with like the Spotify live show that we do, A Gay in the Life, it really started on YouTube because I wanted to use the platform and the voice that I have to start with my husband. We talked about wanting to catalog different queer experiences from around the world. We've interviewed refugees, activists, political figures, teachers, like people in the entertainment industry, obviously, but we wanted to really get a well-rounded scope and be able to catalog where can we go in this world? Where are we safe? What places do the laws support us? What places do the laws just want our money, but we really could never truly live there and have a future?
What's one of the stories that you've shared or one of the people that you've interviewed on your show that has really stuck out that you're like, wow, that was a moment?
Adafe Okporo, who is an activist and still is an activist, who went through, getting awarded for his work in activism, and then that very same time was dragged out of his house naked. And they tied a bell around his genitals and made him do a walk of shame, and then had to escape, coming back, getting his check, and then fleeing to the U.S. and then being put in the immigration system, which is really just prison.
Yeah.
And then making a friend in there that he told us about, in a woman getting locked in there in the men's prison, couldn't speak English, and they wouldn't do anything to get her out of it. So it's just like the stories that we've heard are so eye-opening, and we knew that was a part of it, was that to me, it's about perspective. I know I have a lot of gifts in my life, and I want to remain grounded enough to be able to, actively do as much as I can, or help put people who deserve to be heard in any position to use whatever power platform I have to help and amplify that voice.
Well, like I said, we saw you growing up. In your early projects, we saw, the happy, the singer, the dancer.
Yeah.
And
It's still there.
It definitely is still there. But during that time, you had the struggle of having this relationship.
Yes.
I don't know if I was on the other side of that, if I could be in a relationship that wasn't totally out. And that must have, not to get too personal, if you don't want to talk about it, you don't talk about it, but that it wouldn't have put a strain or a constant conversation of, what takes priority in one's life.
I mean, that inherently would, of course, come into play. And there was, honestly, I tried breaking up with him so many times because I was like, you don't deserve this. I don't want to ask you to go through this. I feel bad and there was a lot of really checks and balances and talking about boundaries. And if we're at this point, what do we want? How do we want to handle it? Now, if we're at this point, how do we want to handle it? And I mean, it did take a toll on me mentally. I went to therapy for a few years to kind of work through that. And I'm very proud of, getting to this space and this point in our relationship. Honestly, we are so happy and we're so in sync with what we want in life together, and I'm just really proud of where we are and all of the crap that we had to go through to get to it. But I'm not to be mistaken for it, it was absolutely a big struggle going through that. I mean, there was a lot of times where I would be asking him to come, just do something with me. And he's like, honestly, I'm just not comfortable going to this event or this party and pretending to be your friend. And I was like, yeah, and I don't blame you for feeling that way. And we literally had a very small group of friends that knew about our relationship, and everyone else was on the outer circle. So there was times when I'd be in a room full of people legitimately thinking to myself, no one here really knows me. But there's certain people in this room that I know would really do want to be my friend and would be there for me. But I had too many past experiences of trying to let people in and then them using that information against me. So it was a very hard balance at that time to really find out who genuinely wants to be my friend or who likes hanging something over it.
So we like to share our coming out stories.
Yes.
And we have a lot to talk about. It's not just like queer.
It's okay.
But so we know when you came out, and you've talked in interviews that it was kind of inspired by your role in Reach to come out professionally. But can you talk about your personal coming out and how that kind of...
Sure.
Yeah.
Also, I will say the coming out publicly wasn't necessarily because of Reach. That was more because I've had experiences in my family with suicide. And so I called the people in my family who were very affected by what happened, and I asked their permission before I even accepted the role. So that was definitely, Reach was about dealing with suicide. And coming out was more about just, like I was saying before, just I told Blake, I think I'm ready. And he said, why? And I said, I feel like we're too happy and in too good of a place for me to act like that's not where I'm at. I want to share our joy, if it helps anybody, or B, just because it's the truth. But when I first came out, when I was 16, I think, I came out to my mom, and I made a big deal out of it. I sat her down because she did that thing that parents do when they want you to know about sex. And I was like, I don't need to know this.
My mom and I still haven't had the straight sex talk, much less the gay sex talk.
Mine grabbed a pillow and was like, I need to talk to you. And I was like, oh no. And so I was like, no, absolutely. I don't need this conversation. And so when I told her, she was like, yeah, I know. And I was like, well, what do you mean you know? And she was like, yeah, I know. And mind you, I was ready for it. I was like, rip off the Band-Aid. And she goes, yeah, I know. Of course I know. I'm your mom. Do you still want to go to the movies? And I was like, okay. And then
let's go see Bros.
I know, right? I did. When I told my dad it was on 4th of July and his friend had gotten me drunk. I'm not condoning underage drinking. It's just what happened. And I was sitting in a ditch crying, and his friend was like, you should tell him. You should definitely tell him. And I was like, I don't think that's a good idea. And I'm wasted. She's like, no, you definitely need to. I'll go grab him. You should tell him. And I was like, oh, okay. So I told him, and his face went sheet white, and he just started patting me on the back really like robotic and was like, it's going to be okay. And then he moved to Florida 2 weeks later. So that's how that went. He's back now. He's been working on himself. He's doing great. And we're in communication again for the past like probably 2-3 years. I'm really proud of how far he's coming. So huzzah. Good job, Dad. But when I was in high school and I came out to my mom, and then I came out to my friend Ron, who we hadn't really spoken, but we were like little kids in a bathtub together. Yep. And I was like, Ron, I'm definitely gay. And he was like, oh, yeah. And he was like a year or two older than me. So he was already in college, and I ended up going to the club. I was like a club kid from 16 to like 18, 19.
Is that what you're learning? Like some of your fashion to me reads very like club kid celebration.
Oh, yeah.
Club kid chic.
I mean, I was like the kid dancing. I had to have, my friend Tony gave me his ID, which we do not look anything alike. Like, yes, my dad's side is Lebanese, but I don't look very Middle Eastern, so it's okay. But Tony is very Middle Eastern, and they let me in with his ID in the bars all over town, so I wasn't mad at it. And so I ended up jumping on the bar, and I'd be like shirt off. I'd be doing dance battles in this place. It was so empowering, and I remember just falling in love with the gay community, being able to just on the weekends go and run off and fully be myself. Because in high school, I was, people were vandalizing my house or making fake MySpaces about what a fag I am, or like trying to fight me in parking lots or chase me in the halls. Like, it was just relentless. So then on the weekends, I got to go and like feels like I get to celebrate existing with all of these other people who, just want to be happy.
Now, how did you not succumb to that kind of nightlife? I remember when I first came out, started hitting the clubs. It got a little sad, and it was like it was too much, and the sex that happens and the drugs and stuff. I know you had your career that was starting.
Yeah.
So how did you balance all of that?
I think at the time, because I had such a weird kind of duality of growing up, whether it was like in different communities or just dealing with there was a lot of negativity in my family environment. My mom was really my rock in all of these things. And so when I first wanted to try getting into the entertainment industry, I got into commercial modeling because one of her friends knew an agent, and then I met with them in Michigan, and they said, you need to meet our agents in Chicago. So I took a Greyhound bus there, and I was 13, and right before we walked into the meeting, I remember my mom being like, all right, now let me, I have to be in charge right now and make sure that she'll take care of us and respect that you're as young as you are. Because where I grew up, like, in LA, everyone starts at 3 to 5. Yeah. Where I grew up, you just don't do this for a living as often. And so when we get into the room, I guess I turn into like a tiny adult where I was like, so hi, we've come a long way. What are you prepared to do for us? And my mom was like, her slack jawed, and the agent was like, excuse me? And I said, well, we've come a long way. I just did my homework on the bus, on the Greyhound for hours to make sure that we could be here to do this. So we're very serious about working. Are you? And she was like, yeah. And then we ended up working with them, and so that's how that started. But the work balance, I guess, came in just seeking joy. I was just always trying to find joy. I was doing 3 shows every summer in community theater. I was on the Greyhound bus going to auditions. I was like any casting calls that were available, I just wanted to find the fun in everything. And I think that's, for a minute in my career, I lost that feeling. And since I've gotten back to just chasing joy, it's really, honestly, I've never been busier in work. I've never been surrounded by so many wonderful people. It's really just become just this like, it's really just chasing joy.
Can you talk about maybe that period of time in your career where you were not chasing joy?
Yeah.
Can you kind of explain why and how you kind of got out of it and made the decision, this is not how I'm going to continue my career, my life?
Well, I've always wanted the work to speak before any kind of social circumstance. And I'm not knocking people who, maybe utilize PR in that way, in like a public way, whether it's tabloid or in any other form, because I'm on social media, so who am I to judge?
We love your social media.
Thank you. But I do think that Wait, will you restate the question again for a second?
That kind of period of time where you were not happy in your career and you got back to working for what you wanted to do, what filled you with joy.
So, and to what I was just saying before, sorry, sometimes I forget the question.
No, just because we're talking about like everything.
we really are. So I kind of got lost because I was listening to a lot of people who were telling me to want different things than I initially wanted. It was like, you have to be here and you have to talk this way and pose this way and look this way and answer this way and be this way to end up if you want to be a leading man, you have to check all these boxes that you don't naturally check. I remember going, a friend walked me down Rodeo Drive and it was like, well, you walk very like pronounced like a dancer. They're like, straight guys don't walk like that. So then I had to go through this whole like body thing, and I was trying to think back to my dance training of like, oh, well, just think of it like a different kind of dance. Like I have to walk a certain different way. And I remember there was times when I would be back home in Michigan and I would get work calls and my voice would go completely different. And my friends would get so freaked out because they were like, you are terrifying. And I was like, I feel terrifying. This sucks. And then we would end up in this big cry fest and I'd be like, I don't know who I am anymore. And of course I didn't, because I was listening to all these other people trying to tell me if I wanted my dream, I had to be different. And none of it was ever valid enough. Like I couldn't ever pose enough the right way. I couldn't ever answer enough the right way. I couldn't ever associate with good enough people. And it was always such like a struggle trying to reach these unobtainable goals to be something that other people wanted me to be. And then once I finally like stripped all the bullshit away and then got my ass into therapy, and I love my therapist. He's amazing. He's an old Jewish man, and I spilled my guts to him and he was like, you're fucking your own life up. You're waiting for the ball to drop and you're trying to drop it before anybody else can. And so it really opened my eyes because, whether it was family circumstances that led me to that thought process or friends or moving or these other people in this new city, adding to that narrative, it was really reinforcing that people go away if you don't be who they want you to be. And I was like, I have to come to a point in my life where I don't care if you go away, if you don't like me. I don't want to be in a space that I'm not wanted or unwelcome. I have to go to a space where we naturally feel good talking and being together and like sharing our hearts and wanting to just be honest and open about who we are. I have good intentions and I want people in my life to feel supported and to feel supported in their success and their joy. My success is your success, and my success is not your failure. And if people are insecure, and that's something that I really realized was that there was people I loved that anytime something good happened, they had to tear me down. Ugh. And I'm like, I have had to let all of those relationships go and make room for anybody who sees a community. There's enough room for all of us to win. And that's kind of where that's a big phase of my life right now. I want to win and I want everyone I love to win. There's enough room for me to win and for you to win.
One of my personal mantras I always say is, if we all win, then we all win. Mm-hmm. If we all succeed, then we all succeed. And I wonder if some of that, being told what to do, being a Disney kid per se, and in doing research for this interview, I look back at some of the old interviews that you were in the Teen Heartthrob magazines, and you were being sold as that Disney product. And no offense to Disney if you love Disney, but I'm sure being an actor as part of that Disney machine at that time was very interesting and full of pressure, because you were given this box to be the Teen Heartthrob. All of the interviews, and it's funny, in reading some of the interviews that you did, you would kind of shift the conversation where you needed it to go, and it was so crafty and it was so mature. And looking at it now, it's like, that's why he was answering it this way, but it was like you were fighting that idea of being a teen heartthrob, but also enjoying your fans too.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about that actor evolution. You come from a theater background. We know musical theater, jazz hands. Just, because it is a big part of it. And then being on the Disney Channel, very presentational. And then again, in looking at your kind of actor evolution, doing some of the darker pieces, and the headlines were Garrett Clayton, like you've never seen him before. What kind of pressure did you have as an actor, and did you have to change the way that you approached the character? Did you have to change your acting method, even if you have one? How did that change along with that?
Well, funny enough, I'd been doing homework on and actively, because they were my team was very specific, and the only time in like a long-term contract, like working with Disney, because sometimes they have first right of refusal for certain contracts, and my team was very adamant that you can only say no to him doing another project if it conflicts with the dates of him shooting other things with you. If it doesn't conflict with those dates and you don't have him booked, then he can say whatever, yes or no to any other work he wants. And that was very smart, because I have other friends who, I have a lot of very good friends at Disney, so this is not a slight. It's just what happened, and that I have other friends who've had to turn down and say no to other very big roles, and unfortunately missed out on things because Disney was like, well, we don't see that for you.
That is so smart. I never heard of that kind of version of exclusivity. That's
So,
1,000%.
And so I'd been working, and I still do work with multiple coaches and various types of acting techniques. Because I believe in having, it's like you want to have as many tools in your toolbox as possible. If one thing isn't resonating emotionally with me, I want to be able to go back into the toolbox and find something else that maybe, if something imagination based isn't working, then I'll go to something method. Maybe there's something that's a blend of both. Like, it's really important to me to have so many different tools to pull from, because it just makes you more creative and more inventive with the work that you're going to present.
You seem like somebody that's always trying to challenge yourself and always trying to grow, from the makeup tips that you share, from your transformations, from the dancing, and now you're recreating some dance from some of these great movies.
Yeah.
But even acting, you can literally see, it's like you just challenge yourself. Where does that come from? As a kid, just like challenge, just be better? Or
just having fun. If I feel like I'm having to work hard to learn something, that I'm usually having fun. Like, anytime I get to collaborate with any of my friends for the online content, I'm always harping on, if we're not having fun, then why are we here?
Yeah.
This has got to be a joyous process. If we're otherwise, like, we'll put it on pause and let's go find something. Let's find a different piece of material that's more fun to do, because I don't want to stress out, and I don't want you to stress out, because it comes through in the work. Obviously, if I'm doing an acting role and something is challenging and it's hard, like when I was doing the play with Al and Judith, and I was playing this hooker who hated his life, and I mean, there was a lot of weight that came with that. And I remember calling my mom a couple times after work, and because I'd developed that play with them for
2 years.
Yeah, it was 2 years of work, on and off, and they would come back and we'd be developing it further. And I remember the time we did the longest run in Pasadena, and it was very hard and taxing mentally, because when you're stressed at night, it's I believe it's like psychologically things that are heavier or more sad.
It's like a physical weight that you can take home with you.
And so a lot of the work I did was a bit more method in that one. And so I was pulling in moments from my real life because there was a point when I would have to sob on stage talking about how much I hated my life and myself every night, while Al Pacino was just stroking my hair casually. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. But once I got over that and realized, like, once I got over being a fangirl about Al Pacino, I realized there was a lot of intense work I had to do, because if you're going to sob and talk about how much you hate your life and yourself every night, if you're doing something imagination based, it's easier to detach myself from the process. But I felt like for that, I really wanted to pull in real heavy weighted things, because as an audience member, I'm filling in a lot of gapped moments, because my character was on drugs a lot of the time. So I needed to have a through line, and which was really nice, because I had a couple either friends or casting people or just like different people who look for those things and were like, you were really connected through a lot of times you didn't have dialogue for 20 minutes. And I was like, oh, thank you for noticing that. And so that is more taxing. That was something that I had to call home about and be like, I am so sad. I don't want to be this sad. This sucks. I love doing this show, and it's with iconic people.
Yeah.
I'm dying right now. Like, this is a dream job, but I'm leaving work every night feeling so fucking sad.
And do you feel you have to work harder to kind of overcome the Disney years, the Hairspray image? It's like, okay, now he's going to do drama. Let's see how Garrett Clayton does drama. It's like people are looking even more. It's like, we know Judith Light is going to, be great. Mm-hmm. But do you feel like you have to work harder? Not that you don't have the ability, but because people just come in with assumptions from 20 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like maybe at the beginning when I was doing things like King Cobra, when I was doing just like what we're talking about, God Looked Away, doing whether it was the Nick Cage thing where I'm a drug dealer, or like there was little staple moments where I was like, okay, I'm building out my body of work still. I do have something to prove. Mm-hmm. And getting to this point, I've done those things. Yeah. So, people still come in with their expectations, or, oh, the Disney kid, blah, 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 and I can feel the way that insecure people try and cut me down. But at a certain point in my life, I don't really feel affected by it anymore, because I see it more as a reflection of them.
Yeah.
So if they, I never expect anyone to know my full body of work. So, like, even sitting down, you talking about these things with you and you just knowing, it's very flattering, but I don't expect it. So if someone comes at me with my Disney years, I'm glad you saw that and I'm grateful that you did. And now I'm going to show you something else, and that's okay too.
So let's talk about working with Al Pacino and Judith Light.
Sure.
I can't imagine what that rehearsal process was like. How was that rehearsal process for something different than any other thing that you did? And what did you learn most from both of them? And I've seen Al Pacino on stage. He's very big.
Yes.
And like you said, you had some very intimate moments. How do you challenge an actor who you walk in thinking, oh, well, it's Al Pacino? How do you challenge them to become a scene partner and to engage in the rehearsal process as an actor when they're this bigger-than-life persona kind of on stage, too, on screen and on stage?
I will say the most successful people I've ever worked with don't ever come into the work with that kind of ego, which is really, I think, such a gift. I always feel challenged in the work we're doing because we're in it together. The most successful, like, well-rounded, like, Al never made me feel like I was less than. It was always teamwork. With Judith, it was always teamwork. Yeah. And with these people that I worked with, I mean, with, rest in joy and love, Robert Allen Ackerman, who was the director on the project, did the Reagans and did, like, My Life with Judy Garland and done some really iconic things. And he was the one directing us. And he, there's just so many, and through those years, there was different people coming in, but we ended up having so many wonderful people who were a part of it. But through every iteration of that show, it was always, how can we do the work better together? Does this scene serve the purpose? How can we rework it? We rework it to try it in a different way that maybe we didn't think of. Or Al would be like, let's just try the scene, just improv the whole thing for 5 minutes and just see, maybe there's little nuggets of gold in there that we know the purpose of the scene, but maybe there's dialogue that can better serve the purpose. And that was, it was literally just sitting in a 2-year masterclass. I mean, they were pulling out stories about working with Judy Davis and Meryl Streep and all of these incredible, just like iconic people that I was like, how am I in this room?
If Judy Davis were to walk in, I would just drop dead no matter where I was.
Yeah. And I mean, and Dotson, who the play was based off of his experience with Tennessee Williams. I mean, and then he was talking about all of these other famous iconic things and people and scenarios, and just, I mean, it was legitimately just like sometimes I was like just sitting in the room being like, okay, absorb as much as you can, because something like this doesn't happen twice. I was just grateful for every iteration we got.
I want to talk about King Cobra. So it came out a couple of years before you publicly kind of came out. And I thought, well, that's interesting to accept a role that's so overtly not just gay, but very sexual.
Yes.
And I remember when I read that you were going to play the part, I thought, that's an interesting choice, because it's such a 180 from kind of what we had seen before. And it must be nerve-wracking, no matter how confident you are in your body, like physically body, no matter how confident you are in acting, when you have to reveal yourself in such a sexual way, that must have been a big choice for you to say yes. What made you say yes to that project?
Over the years, I'd been auditioning, like I was telling you, even when I was at the beginning of the Disney machine, I was still auditioning for a gamut of things. I mean, you name it. X-Men, what was that? Hunger Games. I was up for, like...
I can see you like in all of these things, too. Marvel, the universe is growing.
I know, and I'm dying to be a superhero. I want to be a superhero. I want to be a wizard. And so... What was the question again? We got stuck on superheroes, and I'm like, wait a minute.
King Cobra, what made you say yes to? Yeah, and what was the rehearsal process for that too?
Yeah, so when it first came across, we were like, well, how do we feel about this? Because it's very polarizing, and I thought, well, a lot of people don't get a chance to step out into a new category. And I knew I was a Disney kid who was hoping to just, obviously I'm very grateful and will always be grateful for the break that Disney gave me and the support that they put behind me, whether they knew I was gay or not. It put me in a position to be like, I am a now out gay actor who comes from this kind of lineage that doesn't have a lot of representation. And I know that is a point that they are trying to, build out a lot more now, thankfully. But when that came along, I thought, this is a chance to show a different side. I am actually gay, so I'm not scared of being touched by men. I know that I'm not in a period of my life where I can necessarily be out and proud in the way I would like, but...
And that's what I mean. It's so like visceral. It's so scary because it's like it's naked in a whole different form. It's naked physically, but naked emotionally as an actor.
I've never really felt shame or scared of like nudity or the human body or sexuality. I've always felt very comfortable with these things. I've just always personally felt, and I know there a lot of other people have communicated this too, but I've always felt very comfortable with those things in life, and I know American society is very shameful upon sexuality and nudity, but I just have never subscribed to that kind of feeling about it. I've always been very comfortable with it. You talk to any of my best friends, I'm like, I get home and I have to be in my underwear. I fucking hate clothes.
You're going to have like 100 new best friends next week now. We want to see that.
But that's the thing is like, I've been that way since I was like a teenager. And like, I this is a gross fact and I know Blake's going to kill me for even saying it. But like, I'm the type, I'll take a dump and I got the door open I'm not stopping the conversation with my best friend. I'm like, and so the next part is, and we keep talking and it's very comfortable because I just don't care. I don't know why. I just don't care.
There's no way in anyhow, like I was in an 8.5 relationship, two separate bathrooms for the whole relationship. There's just no way.
Oh no, Blake is very opposite. He's like, stop pooping with the door open. I'm like, you knew what came with loving me.
He's like, I was ready for all that.
My best friends, my two best friends, we will still FaceTime each other on the toilet.
Well, okay.
It's a 10-minute break and I need to fill you in on my life.
All right, so the rehearsal process for King Cobra, you're working with some other actors, producer that's not necessarily from the gay culture, which must have been interesting to kind of have to be like the on-set consultant, like
for King Cobra.
Yeah, but like not really. But
no, Justin Kelly, the director, he's gay.
Be like James Franco involved. You're working with Christian Slater, Alicia Silverstone, who actually was the officiant at your wedding.
That's right.
Did you see her in American Horror Stories?
Not yet.
Okay, you have to see
I'm
that
excited to see. It's her birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday, Alicia! But that must have been to be sharing this kind of gay story with not all queer people, which we know now. Like that's a new thing. Is like let's make movies with all queer people. Was it interesting?
Well,
being
only
kind of
one
in the middle.
One movie.
Well, yeah.
One movie does not make a million.
Well, but it's going to be like hopefully it'll follow suit. But
Yes.
was it weird being kind of like in that middle ground? Like 1 foot in the queer culture and 1 foot in the straight culture, but still not really out.
The only thing that made it really hard is when the movie was coming out and I was getting all of these bloggers and tweets and Instagrams and news articles being like another straight actor stealing another gay role. And I was like, God damn it, this time it's not true.
Funny.
And funny enough, I booked more gay roles as a closeted gay actor than I have as an out gay one.
That's
and I've been up for a lot of
Yeah.
gay parts as an out gay actor and have gotten none of them.
It's like you're not gay enough.
I've gotten all the other part. I've gotten a lot of other parts that I've been up for, but aside from Lettermen, I literally cannot think of one role since coming out that I've booked that has been gay.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that's where casting's going, where it's just so blind. You know who's having that problem is not problem, but that issue. Tyler Alvarez, he came out and he's playing straight jocks and even the gay movies.
Yeah, I know.
He's like, nope.
It's so weird. I'm like, now it's just, and I've already done it. I've done it a bunch of times.
Yeah.
It's so, anyway.
Anyway, okay, so let's look at the trailer for The Lettermen.
Yes.
If you can kind of explain what it's about, because it's part of American war history.
Yeah.
Not just queer culture, but can you explain what the film's about and how you got involved?
Sure. Wait, you want me to do that after this?
No,
or before it?
Yeah, before, so we can kind of like...
Oh, okay. So,
it.
yeah, Andrew Valentine, who is the director, acquired the rights to legitimately produce Gilbert and Gordon's story. And he got a hold of me. He just blindly emailed me.
That's insane.
I know. He was like, I really feel like you're right for this. I know, like, I'm real. I'm friends with your friend Brianna, which
She's like, real, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and me and her like knew each other from when we lived in Michigan. So I've known Brianna for years. And he was like, she gave me your contact and this is a legitimate ask. It's a legitimate project. And I was like, well, just send me the materials and, I'll give anything a look. So I read through it and I thought, there's a lot of similarities in the things that I've went through with my husband, my now husband, and at the time he was still my fiance. And this story resonates with me personally not just in the relationship I'm in, but as like a queer person in society, and all the things I've went through, having coming out twice, not being able to be out publicly at different points in my life. It's just, there was a lot of similarities in that, and wanting to be able to celebrate the love I have publicly. So I called Andy, we talked about, the project, and I just ended up falling in love with it. I love their story, and I think just realizing that we don't have a lot of this from a lot of points in time, and they were, I think they faced up to 10 years in jail just if anybody found out they even liked each other, or that they were gay. And so it just seeing the way the world is currently, and, different countries flip-flopping. Some countries are getting more progressive. Other ones are locking it down and trying to strip rights away, including the one we're in. Yeah. So it's just a real issue in our culture and our society and in our world. And it really is important to me that story was told. And I felt really lucky to be asked.
All right, let's take a look at the trailer for The Lettermen.
My darling boy, the news today sounds pretty bad with the Germans in Paris. Where are you, darling? I hate being without you in a time that I need you the most. Wouldn't it be wonderful if all of our letters could be published in the future? Then all of the world could see how in love we are.
It's so beautifully shot. It's like, I'm not in a relationship right now, but I feel like part of their relationship. Mm-hmm. And like your emotional peak happens when you're not necessarily together. Yeah. And it's just you on camera. I want to know how you prepared for that kind of day of shooting, where you emotionally kind of drag that from, other than the obvious. Mm-hmm. But as an actor, you're like, okay, here's special effects, and here's the camera, and here's like, How did you mentally prepare yourself for that day of shooting?
Honestly, I was so excited that they were going to have a real explosion.
Yes, it's like not CGI.
It's true. Like, they built out this whole World War II set in maybe in like the mountains in Malibu or something, and it was the middle of the night, and I didn't even think I had any dialogue in that scene. It was literally just me in a dugout that they'd built to be a replica of a World War II moment. And we used the real letter in one shot. Wow. Because there was rain and we didn't want to ruin it. It was very specific about when we used it. And for me, it was just drawing in a lot of the longing and like passion I felt. There was a moment where I was traveling so much, and when I was working so often that, I remember I was leaving for another job once a few years ago, and it was before we were out publicly with our relationship and me, and I just started crying because I was like, I think I'm missing all of the important things that matter to us. And I knew it's just a part of my job. I have to leave a lot. I think I've come to terms with that a lot more now in my age. But when you're younger and you're in this new long-term thing, and you really just want to like share in all the joy and all the little moments,
the press tours, the parties,
the
days on
holidays,
set.
holidays, family things, the family you're creating. And so there was a lot of the like coming to terms with that I was feeling, and it was just like the longing of wanting to like really just truly be with the person you love and smell their smell, and like be able to hold them, and walk into a room and you always feel safe. And there was just a lot of like the longing aspects that I was trying to put into that, and what that feels like when you're unfortunately just for a long time and a long distance away from someone you love. And there was a few moments where I was pulling in from jobs that I'd be gone for 3 months, and calling him and being like, you don't have to sit around and wait for someone like me, and I'm not worth it. You can just go be with someone you can actually like spend a lot more time with, and who you can.
That's heartbreaking. Be
out, and like obviously I love you, but it's not fair, and I don't feel like it's fair to make you sit here and wait until I'm ready for whatever it is that we can be out and open. Like, you deserve to go be loved and feel confident and get to run around the world with somebody. And I don't want you to have to wait for me anymore. And it really, like, there was so many just sad conversations of me telling him I'm not worth it.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because that's a very real part of your life. I can't imagine even holding those letters in your hands, knowing the history behind it and knowing the emotion that went into every pen stroke.
And I mean, even just seeing the response we're getting from it, so many people make shorts that never get seen. And
100%. That's why I was like, oh, he said yes to doing a short. Okay, let's see, because unfortunately, with all the glitz and glamour for the big movies, you're very right. Short films, and I feel that that's even become worse, like over the last 5 years. People really don't go to short film festivals anymore.
No.
People don't seek them out.
But just to be part of one that has such historical significance, I mean, it really is the largest archive of any kind of romance we have from any queer relationship in World War II. That's a big deal. Yeah. That's a big, that's a big look into a piece of history that, if we're lucky, we might find one or two more that might even crack the door open. But this is hundreds of love letters that are created between people who genuinely love each other and are just trying to survive in a world that won't let them be together. Even when the war's over, it's the heartbreaking reality of you still have to go home and marry somebody you don't technically love. And hopefully you can be best friends and live in the same neighborhood. And every once in a while you get a moment alone. But, two men alone, don't want to see that very often. It's just a sad reality of that period of time in a lot of places in the world today.
100%. And you're working with Andy on something new, aren't you? Are you allowed to talk about it?
I mean, I'm a cameo in this. I'm not the lead.
Okay. But okay.
It's the Mattachine family.
Yeah.
And it's a look into creating a family in a queer environment. And I think it's going to be a really powerful story.
All right, I want to just take a quick peek at one of your makeup tutorials. Not even tutorials, just celebration. Can we look at this? This is the lighter side of
Which one did you
of
pick?
Garrett. Well, Halloween's coming up.
Oh my God.
You look great. Especially for a dead woman.
Hello, Jason. I think I've had a change of heart.
Oh,
Quite.
me?
Literally. The animal plant toxins had a rather unique effect on me. They replaced my blood with aloe, my skin with chlorophyll, and filled my lips with venom. Oh, and Jason, one other thing. I probably should have mentioned this earlier. I'm poison.
So you've done a lot of these transformations, and I'm addicted to watching them because we don't just see, the brush and then we see before and after. We see the layer and the layer. How did you get into learning makeup like that?
Well, that's all theater, baby.
I did theater. I'm not doing makeup like that. I was usually playing the old man and everything, but still.
But you gotta know how to do age makeup.
But what is your creative process through that, though? Because it's so well structured, the way you film it, and I can't imagine how messy your bathroom or your makeup table must be, or your closet with all your costumes, by the way, too.
Oh no, we organized in this house.
Is that you, or is
I might be disgusting and poop with the door open, only with people I love, but everything else is clean. I feel like I should ask to have that cut out because everyone's going to think I'm disgusting.
No, I think it's endearing. That's a part. It's that's the real part of you. We see you all dressed up at Fashion Week and all that. It's no, he's a real person too. He even poops.
So but yeah, I mean, admittedly, right after the makeup transition moments, it's very messy in the area, but I always have to pack it up and clean it up because I'm going to have to do it again. So I have to find everything.
We talked about how you challenge yourself, and you've done so many different genres. What do you want to challenge yourself with next?
There's a lot of things coming down the pipeline that I'm really excited about. It's just until we sign the dotted line, we don't say anything.
Yeah.
But there's there's a lot of really cool things coming. I mean, right now, we're doing the Spotify live show every Monday night.
And that's a whole different... People don't understand how difficult it is to sit there and chat every week. It's a whole different kind of artistry. And that comes with preparation as well. So that's like a whole different aspect of your career that we've never seen.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I just feel fortunate to hear all these stories and perspectives. My favorite thing in life is really just being able to understand, like, the life I have is totally different from every single person, and really, just like in my work and what, with you saying in the makeup and things, to really respect everyone's journey and everyone's path and where people are coming from. And so to get to hear these different perspectives of these different people and these different lives, whether it's business owners and, how did you start your business and in a place that may or may not support you? How are you starting a family that may or may not support you? How are you doing it? We've had other podcasters on there. Like I said, political activists, and we're about to have a couple politicians on. And it's really just for me about getting a really well-rounded perspective of life and being able to really, truly respect other people's diversity. And it just feels like a gift. Every week I'm given the gift of someone else's perspective. But then, I'm going to go do it off Broadway, which is really exciting.
So fun.
The first Pennywise in New York, Take That World. And then, I mean, I'm working on music in Nashville right now with a few people, which I guess I'm just starting to talk about it, but we're meeting with a few different labels in January, and there's some really exciting meetings coming up because they're excited about the music that we're making. And
that's really exciting.
And we're working with some iconic songwriters, which I feel I'm just a little blown away. I mean, they've written with people like Celine Dion and Pink and J-Lo and NSYNC, and like the list just goes on. And they're all, like I said, the most successful people have such a good, kind attitude about work. It really is just about the joy and the collaboration of making something that makes us feel good at the end of it. I can make a dramatic movie, but if we're enjoying the process of what we're going to create and coming out the other end going, we made an honest piece of material, and if it makes people feel real visceral emotions, then I've just done my job right. And that to me is the joy of making this work. Yeah.
Well, how exciting to hear music from your point of view. I know when you did your first cabaret, you talked about, it was really your story and how it was coming across from you, not just playing a role. And just real fast, I know we have to go. What was it like coming back to Nickelodeon, a kid's channel?
Yeah.
So, I don't make you seem like you're like ancient, but with, this whole life.
They're still auditioning me for Disney Plus for 17-year-olds. I'm like,
oh, I believe it.
I'll take it.
Yeah, no, I believe it.
I'll take a check.
But coming back to Nickelodeon, knowing that this is the growth that you've had with the coming out and, you come back on your own terms. That must have been unique to be able to have fun on the show, but to kind of come back like, I know who I am.
Honestly, it's just this whole period of time has just felt like a celebration. It's like once I've gotten to this really is my favorite moment in my life I've gotten to have. I'm happy in a good relationship. Work is going well. I'm able to create new things with wonderful people. And being on Fairly Odd Parents as a sitcom, and I'm the pop star, that's
fun.
Dying.
Yeah, that's a bucket list.
It really is bucket list. I was like, holy shit, My Shiny Teeth and Me, Take That World. And so, we premiered on Paramount Plus. This month, they're going to start airing all the episodes on Nickelodeon. And I mean, this is just, to me, it's just the gift that keeps on giving. So, check out Fairly Odd Parents this month. Come watch, come listen to...
And some few co-stars, too.
A few. Mm-hmm. You know how excited I was to be working with Laura Bell?
Yes. Well, I can imagine.
I love her. Well, she came by when we did Hairspray Live, but this time we really got to get to know each other and work, and God, I just love her.
Yeah. Yeah, she's great. And Leslie Margarita, too.
Oh, me and her, we always text each other. We just get to be clowns.
Love her.
We're just absolute clowns on that show.
All right. We could go on and on and on, but you have to rush off to some other city, some other states right now. What is your message to your fans?
Thank you so much. I feel grateful and lucky that you even give a shit about me. Thank you so much. I hope I get to make more fun stuff that you get to enjoy. I love you. Thank you.
And your fans really are loyal. But you give us a lot of good content, too. Sometimes you just talk to us on your social media.
You're right.
And then other times you put so much effort into the dance stuff that you do and then the makeup stuff.
Yeah. So, and I always will.
Yeah, so you give back. You're such a joyful person.
Thank you.
I love it. Tell people where you want them to find and follow you.
You can find me at Garrett Clayton 1 on all platforms. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I will be alive and I will be sharing all the fun things that I get to do with you.
Yes. All right. That's it, folks. It's always a grab bag of fun here on The Rocks. Big thank you to our engineer, Tony Sweet, our social media clip editor, Alexis Mendez. Coming up, we have Food Network's Zach Young from all of the baking championships, so I'm freaking out because that's one of my favorite shows. Also, the Charmed ones. Anybody a fan of the original Charmed?
100% right here.
So we have 3 of the original cast members coming on for our Halloween episode, so I'm really, really excited about that. You'll have to stay tuned for our big announcement to find out exactly who, but the power of 3 will set you free. Other than that, find, share, subscribe so we can continue bringing this fabulous show coming your way. Until next time, stay happy, stay healthy, stay sexy. More importantly, stay tipsy. It's On The Rocks. This has been another episode of On The Rocks. Tweet me and slide into my DMs on Twitter and Instagram at On The Rocks On Air. Find everything On The Rocks for free at OnTheRocksRadioshow.com. Subscribe, like, review, and share. Until next week, stay fabulous.